Hello again! As you can see, I'm making more videos about the modern era, a period that began with the end of the Cold War. While some of the topics I will discuss here are somewhat controversial, I really want to talk about them. Partly because when it comes to current or recent events, things are not always what they seem to be. I've already talked about the financial crisis of 2008. Now I'll take a look at the history of the European Union. Right after the end of World War II, several initiatives were launched to bring about some form of European cooperation, which was seen as the key to avoid future conflicts. Of course, this was not true, and it is still not true today, because the continent had lost its former power and relevance, and it was now divided between two superpowers who stationed massive armies in several countries, staring each other down. From 1949, both camps possessed nuclear weapons, which guaranteed lasting peace. It was the existence of these weapons, and not any kind of integration, that prevented war in Europe. Still, some European countries felt the need to work together more closely. The 1948 Hague Congress led to the creation of the College of Europe, where future leaders would study together, and also to the founding of the Council of Europe, a body that is much larger than the EU today. It also includes Russia, for example. It still exists today, although it doesn't seem to have a meaningful purpose, and it has been accused of serving institutional corruption. We should still mention it because the flag and the official anthem of the EU both came from the Council of Europe. In 1952, seeing the lack of progress, 6 nations established the European Coal and Steel Community, which was to be the first step in the Federation of Europe. These 6 countries, France, West Germany, the Benelux countries, and Italy, worked together, appointing leaders like Jean Monnet and Robert Schuman, who are still considered the founding fathers of the EU. 5 years later, in 1957, the European Economic Community, the EEC, was created, now with a customs union to support economic development, along with the European Atomic Energy Community. Already in the 1960s, tensions were showing as the French tried to limit such supranational powers, but in 1967, the Merger Treaty established a single set of institutions for these 3 bodies, creating the European communities. In 1973, more countries joined. Denmark, Ireland, and the UK were now members, while a Norwegian referendum failed, so Norway stayed out. In 1979, the first elections to the European Parliament were held. In 1981, Greece joined, followed by Portugal and Spain in 1986. In that same year, the European flag began to be used. The Schengen Agreement lifted border checks among member states and some non-member countries, while the Single European Act aimed to create a single market by 1992, abolishing internal tariffs. This would materialize in the Maastricht Treaty, which gave the name European Community to the EEC, and envisioned further expansion that would also include former communist countries. East Germany had already joined in 1990. In 1995, Austria, Finland, and Sweden joined. In 2002, the euro replaced 12 national currencies, while in 2004, the following new members were accepted: Cyprus, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Malta, Poland, Slovakia, and Slovenia. They were followed by Romania and Bulgaria in 2007, with more countries accepting the euro as well, although some criticism was also expressed against the common currency, which would contribute to the financial crisis. In 2009, the new Lisbon Treaty reformed many aspects of the EU, changing its legal structure, creating a permanent president of the European Council, which is not the same as the Council of Europe, and trying to give more power to the representative of the Union for foreign affairs and security policy. At the same time, the debt crisis, which was exacerbated by the common currency, tested the cohesion of the European Union. Croatia then joined in 2013, But this was followed by the migrant crisis and the UK referendum, which eventually led to Brexit. As I'm recording this in February 2022, we don't have a clear vision of the future. Nobody really knows how durable the EU will be and whether more countries would choose to leave the community. The EU has been described as a force for good, the guarantor of peace, and the guardian angel of democracy and freedom. Others claim it's nothing but a bureaucratic nightmare, a hollow body where not-so-capable politicians or potential rivals are sent to be forgotten. True, it's not always easy to understand the internal structure and the relationship between the various institutions. The average European citizen does not understand how the European Commission, the Council, the European Parliament, and the European Council relate to each other, which competencies belong to which institution, and how these competencies are shared between the EU and its member states. The European Council is supposed to give political direction to the EU. It convenes a few times a year, gathering the leaders of its member states. They talk about strategic issues and negotiate treaty changes, but also sort out internal conflicts and try to ensure the external representation of the EU. The European Commission is basically the government, with one representative per member state. The European Parliament is elected by EU citizens on a national basis. It approves the Commission's proposals, together with the Council of the European Union, which consists of a representative from each member state, who also develop a common foreign and security policy. The presidency of this council rotates between member states every 6 months. The EU has exclusive competence regarding the customs union, competition rules for the internal market, monetary policy for the Eurozone, the common commercial policy, and a few other areas. It has more influence than the member states over the internal market, agriculture and fisheries, the environment, consumer protection, transport, energy, and common safety concerns in public health matters. Its members can exercise their own competence in research and development and humanitarian aid, while the EU is supposed to only coordinate economic, employment, and social policies, along with common foreign, security, and defense policies. Its budget comes from all member states who contribute certain amounts of money. This is then redistributed among the same members, some of it going to less developed countries to ensure increased cohesion. Although this mechanic has also been criticized, partly due to widespread corruption, but also because most of this money tends to find its way back to the most developed members, who simply sell more of their products and services to the countries they are supposed to be helping. At the same time, we can say this is how financial flows function when you dismantle all barriers and let the stronger economies fully take advantage of their less developed neighbors. It's clear that in the last 10-15 years, a political struggle emerged between Brussels and some of the nation-states that do not agree with its direction. While Brussels seems to always talk about human rights, gay rights, transgender rights, and the curvature of the cucumbers that can be produced, at the same time trying to rein in all members and gradually establish a United States of Europe, these nation-states would rather preserve tradition and stick to the original structure of the community, with a common market but no political union. One immediately thinks about Hungary's and Poland's opposition to more liberal directives, but the picture is more complex. Very often, these countries rely on silent partners who choose not to speak publicly about their concerns regarding Brussels' direction. This is my quick summary of the European Union and its history. I plan to make many more videos on the subject, as I have plenty to talk about. See you in the next episode.